Good afternoon. It's time to join us at the Rhythm Roast Cafe, where you can sit down and talk about almost anything you want safely. We're a bunch of guys and you that get to talk about current affairs, stuff that is on your mind, or just the weather, or maybe our baseball team. Teams. Anyway, I'm Danny D, and welcome aboard. Grab yourself a cup of Joe, sit down, and let's roll. Today's subject is going to be immigration. To my left is Nick, and to his left is Tom. Okay, Will couldn't make it today, but we'll do our best without him. All right?
Yeah.
So please, this is interactive. It works best if you contact us and join us. So sit down, watch the show to the end, and please be a part of the Rhythm Roast Cafe.
Absolutely. I mean, this only works if people want to interact with us and give us their opinions, and we can feed off of that too. If I have an uncle that talks about having 2 Greeks and 3 opinions, so I'm sure it'll work out with this group as well. All right? You got anything to say?
Anything to add, Tom?
Not yet.
Not yet. He passes.
For those of you that are new to this, we all knew each other from being in the security business and working rock and roll shows. Danny was the leader. I was a young punk. He brought me in.
I knew Tommy from 50 years. You know?
Yeah.
I knew him from before Jam and before rock and roll. We had a coffee house on the west side of Chicago right after the '68 convention.
Yeah.
And
Doc Andos.
we harbored a lot of the kids that came in from all kinds of points in the country and never went back home. So they hung out at our coffee house, which this is supposed to be an expression of 50 years later.
Well, the thing is, society is civility is lacking. People that don't agree, they're starting to doubt each other's goodness. You know,
Integrity.
Their integrity, and we want to. We can be civil. We can disagree and be civil. And this should go to all aspects of life. You know.
Well, and the big thing is to value somebody else's opinion and point of view.
Yeah, because every once in a while I change my mind. Somebody convinces me.
Yeah,
You have to be an idiot for your mind to never change.
Yeah. Well, a conformist at least.
Listen, I had a real good friend of mine that the first Trump election cycle that I had a big falling out with the guy because I knew the guy all my life, and all of a sudden I'm this horrible person because I like Trump. And it was like, dude, you've known me all of your life. Now you're telling me that I'm... And he did come back and he did say, listen, you're not a bad guy. I just got caught up in the emotion. But that's the point, is people get caught up in the emotion. They say things, they do things, and then, as we like to say in the law profession, because I am a lawyer, you can't unring the bell. I mean, once the bell's rung, once that answer comes out and a jury hears it or a judge hears it or whatever the case may be, you can't unring that. It's really hard to pull that back. So, I think this whole forum is a great idea, just so people who've known each other a long time, respect each other for a long time, can talk about things that they disagree with. And we disagree about a lot.
Yeah, but we agree on a lot too.
That's true. We do.
Today's subject's going to be immigration, and there's 2 aspects for immigration. One is legal immigration versus illegal immigration. What are the pros and cons of both? Okay, so we're going to start out with what the country is most interested in right now: illegal immigration. People who come without papers and enter our borders. So I'm asking our staff conservative attorney here, what are the issues, the cons for this illegal immigration? What do you see as being the biggest problems?
Well, I think one of the biggest problems that you hear generally is that you don't know who's coming in. Okay, if people that are coming in illegally, that are sneaking across borders, that aren't going through the proper channels and the proper procedures, you just don't know who's coming in. And listen, the Republicans jumped on that. They got all these murderers and rapists and people that they're rounding up tooth and nail. I hear Texas, they rounded up 600 people yesterday, and fear sells, and they put the fear that these are the people that you're letting in, and we don't know who you're letting in, and that scares people. If we know who you're letting in, that's a different story. We've always been a welcoming country, and I think we've always been a law-abiding country to a great extent. And I think people appreciate the fact that if you want to come into our country and do things the right way and do it procedurally, and there's a lot of people that do, then that's the way you do it. You don't skip at the front of the line. You don't circumvent the rules just because you can. And that was what I think was a big focus of what the problem was.
Okay, you got anything to add in your position on it?
Well, my position is I agree with you. You know, I think that the Democrats have gotten themselves on the wrong side of this issue, and that's one reason that Democrats lost the last elections, because they stopped being old-fashioned FDR Democrats that look out for working people. They're looking out for people that aren't citizens instead of looking out for the people that are citizens and need to make more money, that need union representation, need better working conditions. You know, all the things that I look upon as an economic left winger. You know, an old time trade union guy with a little socialist bent to his thinking, and so the modern Democrat, the thing they're the most afraid of is being accused of being a racist. They're not afraid of being accused of being classist, but they're afraid of being accused of being racist
Or hypocrites.
and so
No, most are socialists.
So they see the immigration thing is being like, oh, we don't want to be anti-Mexican. You know, we don't want to be anti-Mexican. Hispanic is a euphemism for Mexican, right? In this country. So they get on the wrong side of this issue. And meanwhile, you saw all kinds of Mexican Americans turn for Trump this election.
So what side of the issue should they be on?
They
What should the Democrats be promoting?
The Democrats should be promoting legal immigration. They should not be sticking up for illegal immigrants.
So how would you change it?
How would I change it?
What do you want to change?
I want to change the idea that 250,000 people a month are illegal but want to come in. So how would you change it? Are you going to build a wall?
Well, it turns out you really don't need to build a wall, Danny.
What do you
Because
need to do?
if you noticed in the last month since Trump's been in office, the rate of illegals coming into the country is at its lowest number ever.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's come down.
It come down. There was a thing on CBS News, which is not a conservative news format at all, and they went down to the border and they go, there's nobody trying to cross anywhere at all. Nothing. Okay? So it wasn't that they needed more funding. It wasn't that they needed more guards. It wasn't needed. What they needed was somebody to say, you're not going to do this. If you do it, we're going to send you back. That's it. And that's what happened.
How much does it cost to send you back?
About the same amount of money it cost to bring them here.
Yeah, but we didn't bring them here.
Oh, yes, we did.
How did we pay for them to come
We
here?
were flying them in, Danny.
How are we flying them
We
in?
were flying
I
them-
saw them walking across the Rio Grande
Yes,
with
okay.
6 kids and 3 inches of mud.
If you-
So how did they fly in?
Danny, there was a whole separate program when this thing started getting out of hand where you could apply, do some paperwork, and they'd put you on a plane and fly you in.
From Guatemala?
From everywhere.
From anywhere that had
Everywhere. I got a guy that got arrested today that came in from Lithuania. Okay?
Okay.
2 years ago. Put him on, got his butt on a plane and got flown here. Because he says, I want to come to America and I'm a political refugee
yeah.
or whatever it is, and nothing, just put him on a plane and he came.
And what's wrong with that?
We don't know who he is. That's why he's got a warrant out for
Did you
himself.
know
and he's
who
getting
Luciano
extradited.
was before he came here?
Yeah, and that's
Did
why
you
he
know
was-
who Capone was before he came here? Come on.
No, because
Did you know who your grandfather was before he came here?
that would have been hard for me to do, Dan.
No, I mean, you as the politician who needs to know. Would you know what your my grandfather came from a place in Italy that didn't have a place you could get a visa. He just came. He was a WOP without papers, okay?
Right.
So that was 100 years ago.
It was 100 years ago, and things are different.
Well,
Okay, things are different, Dan. I mean, you can't
wait a
compare.
minute. Is the Constitution different? It's 260 years old. Is it different? Should we throw it out now?
No.
Hey, man, you're 260 years old. Who wants to listen
wait a
to
minute.
you?
What does the Constitution have to do with immigration law?
Well, what does that have to do with being 100 years ago? Immigration is immigration. That is Socrates to you, Mr. Greek.
Well, as in law school, you're mixing apples and oranges.
Oh, no, Plato would say that.
You're mixing apples and oranges. Okay, the Constitution is the Constitution. It doesn't really deal with a whole lot of immigration issues outside of acknowledging what citizenship is. Okay, but the fact of the matter is as we as a country got bigger and more people wanted to come here, we had to change the laws on how people did that and how we received people. So, I mean, we have laws. There's
Yeah.
the whole thing. The immigration code is enormous.
Yeah,
Okay?
but it
That's
hasn't
just
been
what-
changed since what year?
I have no idea.
1965, I believe it
Okay.
was. So,
So,
do you want to go to some of these laws that we had to show what was behind them, the intent? Because I know the justice has an intent is a big part of the law or legal system, right?
okay.
Let's go to the Reed-Johnson Act of 1924. Okay, it's also known as the Immigration Act of 1924.
Okay.
It specifically targeted people from the Mediterranean and Jews. Okay, it specifically targeted them. All right, because it said you can't bring more than 3% of the population of the ethnic group that was here already. But did they do it on the census of 1920, since this was a 1924 act? No. Did they do it at the census of 1910 because maybe they needed 12 years to figure it out? No. Did they do it in 1900? No, they didn't. They needed more than 24 years. They went back to 1890. You know how many Italians were here in 1890?
Probably not that many.
Not that many, okay? And same thing with Jews, not that many. Same thing with Greeks, not that many.
So-
You know how many Germans were here? A whole
lot.
shit house full. You know how many Brits were here? Everybody. You know how many Irish were
How
here?
about the Irish?
A lot.
We were here
Okay.
before the Indians.
Right.
That's a line from a John Frankenheimer movie. I can't take credit for it. The thing is, we need a system to bring in a lot of immigrants because they're needed. Their labor is needed. We need a system to bring them in large numbers and bring them in legally, get them in the country, get them to work, do some of these jobs that people say Americans won't do, which I don't buy.
Thank you.
I don't buy
Thank
that.
you, Tommy.
I think that the market, it's just Americans won't do it for those conditions
those wages.
and those wages. But you know, there seems a lot of people think that we need immigrants, so we have to bring them in a system to legalize them and legalize them in large numbers. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with as many immigrants as they want to bring in, as long as they are going to be protected under the law, that they're going to pay taxes. They're not going to be working under the table. They're going to be paying taxes. They're going to be paying Social Security. If they want, they can join a union and make better money. They can be organized. And that's a big thing, the ability to be organized. When illegal workers can't organize, they have no protection. So that's the way I look at it. We need a system to bring them in.
You know, Tom made a comment earlier about the Hispanic and the Hispanic vote, and how the Hispanic vote really swayed towards Trump in the last
That
election.
was surprising.
Yeah.
Right, and I think what you had there is you had a large scale amount of people, Hispanics and other, but we'll deal with the Hispanics at this point, that went through the system, that came here, that went to the classes.
Yeah,
that
it was a
went
middle
to-
finger to the others. That's what it was.
And they went like, wait a minute, we went through all of this, we did things the right way, and now you're just saying, oh yeah, come on in, it's okay, and you don't have to, you make chumps out of us.
Yeah.
And that's not right. People don't like
Well,
that.
yeah.
Personally, people don't like that.
You're a Republican. Well, I shouldn't say you're a Republican, but you lean to the Republican.
I'm pretty conservative.
Okay,
I'm a
and
conservative guy.
you're almost as old as I, but you're not quite. Okay,
Correct. 66.
I lived through the Reagan era. You know, you were a pup during the Reagan era.
Just
you know?
getting my political feet wet,
Right.
I would say.
And good old Ronnie gave them all amnesty. I think it was 1982. He gave them amnesty.
That was going to be one time.
Yeah, a one-time amnesty shot. You're all in. Okay, why did he do that? He did it because he came from California. They have a big agricultural section. He was getting all kinds of heat from the agricultural section of the United States saying, we need cheap labor, otherwise your oranges and your bananas and your green peppers are going to triple in price.
Cesar Chavez, the lettuce people.
You know?
Right? Wasn't it him? Cesar Chavez?
Yeah, Caesar.
You organized
Caesar
the
Chavez,
farm
yeah.
workers, yeah.
Yeah, right. All I remember is the Folger company going, joining in with the 1973 inflationary people, saying that coffee beans are now bad, so prices of coffee can go up 30%.
Juan Valdez.
Juan Valdez, you know. Anyway,
How come the French never came? I never saw a French neighborhood. You ever see a Belgian neighborhood?
you mean in Chicago?
Yeah.
Only place we ever saw those close was Louisiana and a little area outside of St. Louis.
And those,
which is like
and
a
those
mini-
were French people that came over here 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, didn't DuSable? Well, he was a black Frenchman. Does that matter?
Well, the French didn't care. He was
Yeah.
French. So the French, he was French.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. The French like their. I don't know.
They like France.
They like their French.
My brother thinks France is the best place in the world.
Listen, my grandmother, you know, we're considered like Greek hillbillies. Okay, we came from the mountains, and my grandmother came here, and she said, she asked her, "Do you want to go back?" And she says, "The rocks I left are the same rocks I'll see when I go back there." No, I don't
You have
okay? I mean, they and it took a lot for those people to come here. It really did. I mean, I have a lot of respect for my grandparents to come here and do what they did and be dirt poor and have nothing on the horizon over there to come here and start a life that put me and my kids in a better position. And I'm eternally grateful for people I don't know.
People come to
As
America
did
from
yours.
rocky places.
Yeah.
In Chicago, a lot of the Irish are from the west of Ireland. A lot of them are from Mayo and Sligo and Galway. And those are that's the rocky part.
What does that mean?
Huh?
What does that mean? The rocky part.
That's where it's rocky. It's just a lot of rocks. You see
Oh,
all
you mean
those rock
geographical
faces?
rocky?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Bad agriculture.
yeah, it's
My
like-
grandfather said, you know,
can't live
people
there.
said, "Oh, Ireland's so beautiful." He said you couldn't eat the rocks.
Hmm.
You
yeah.
know? Yeah.
So again, they did it. They came in doing the things that they were told to do. I mean, they went through Ellis Island. They, you know, got checked for diseases, got put in quarantine, whatever it is, and they had a sponsor that said they could come live with us.
So
Like-
what was wrong with that process?
I don't know if there was anything wrong with that process.
Well, we don't
Okay.
like that process now. It
No,
takes
no,
a lot
we don't-
longer.
No. It might take a little bit longer, but that doesn't mean that the process is
Well,
bad.
I have a solution. I don't know if you guys are willing to listen to it, but I've thought about this
A
process
solution
for a
to
long
what?
time.
What
So
are you solving?
I have a solution to illegal immigration.
Okay.
Because neither of you two say you have a problem with legal immigration,
I don't
right?
think anybody does.
So I'm saying, why don't we just make them legal? It's a lot easier to do. And why don't we make our borders hard instead of semi-hard? So I have two ways of solving this problem. Number one, take the 250,000 people that are coming every month at that border. Give me 1,000 bilingual clerk typists. Give me 500 fax machines, and give me 400 RNs armed with vaccinations. I will vaccinate each one. I will get each one paperwork done. You know what the paperwork is like to do a security guard? It takes a half an hour, and it's what 40 pages? We can do that. Now you say, well, what happens when you fax their fingerprints off to the constable in Venezuela or someplace? What happens to it then? Well, you know what? You call up that Pope that's behind all of the standing behind all of the Catholics that are in South America, and you say, listen, send in the Franciscans. Okay, you did it a couple hundred years ago. Do it again. We'll give them Motel 6s or some of those 550 vacant what do you call it, towns, ghost towns in Texas. They can hold themselves there for a while until we vet them, and then we'll give them their papers and go. Now they're legal. Now we can use them for employment. Now they can join the unions or work for for low wages at is some agricultural place?
A couple of problems with what you propose. First of all, is you just want to find a way to process the illegals.
Yep.
Okay, that's not the point.
I thought it
And
was.
first of all, your second point is no. That's your point.
Oh,
Okay?
okay.
That's your point. Is to suddenly make illegals legal just by hiring all these people and processing them and just letting them in because.
Well, you said
they
you
decided-
didn't know who they were. I'm letting them know who they are.
No, you don't.
I'm fingerprinting
No,
them.
you don't.
I'm going to have an ID card with a thumbprint on it. Do you
don't-
have that?
No,
Okay.
you don't
You
know
don't.
who they are, number one. Number two, your point is moot. Because
What?
your point is moot. Because right now, nobody's coming over the border.
Oh,
Okay.
that's going to be
But
a way.
but there is a need for labor. I mean, this is I read every day that companies are complaining
We are
that they need the labor.
7.4
So there has to be a way
vacancies.
to bring in more immigrants and to make them legal. So now I'm just saying what we need. It's not my business to make policy. I'm just saying this is what I think we should do and this is what I want them to do.
All right, now you talk about hardened borders, right? We don't think big anymore in America. We think small, real small. And the reason we've been thinking small since Reagan, because Reagan wanted to make sure that we don't have any taxes that we have to pay, and he was followed by H. Bush, who said, "Read my lips, no new taxes," right? And then he taxed us.
And that's why I voted for a Democrat for the first and only time in my life when I voted
But
for
you
Bill
know what
Clinton.
that tax did, Nick? We had runaway inflation under Greenspan for the entire time that Reagan was in office. And then as soon as he tried everything, Greenspan tried to shrink the M1 by raising interest rates until the interest rates on my house, 15-year mortgage, 16.75% on a 15-year mortgage with 5% down. All right, you millennials, I want to see you complain about the interest rates now, okay? That's what I had to deal with.
I remember in the 70s when I was working at Beginnings when I first met you, I mean, the gas prices and inflation was so bad. I mean, we were just going and topping off our tanks because we didn't know when the next,
Right.
when the gas lines were going to start again. So I don't know if it all started under Reagan. It started kind of under Jimmy Carter from what my feeble memory was.
No, it
Well,
started in
the
72.
worst inflation was when Nixon was president.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it started in 72 because of the war with Israel and the seven days war, whatever it was.
And the inflation was going even before then. I mean,
But
that's what put it over
said-
the top.
yeah, OPEC solidified it when it said, screw you, America. We're gonna consolidate and raise the prices of oil. As soon as energy goes up, everything goes up. That's
Absolutely. We
it.
love
The
that
energy.
one.
It ain't agriculture. It ain't labor. It ain't transportation. It's energy. Okay.
I'm waiting for energy to go back up.
Yeah, well, energy will go back up until we find a source that is renewable that isn't as expensive. But until
Yeah, I
then,
mean,
we're stuck with this.
Listen, the whole green energy thing is, I'm not adverse to it. It's just got to be reliable. It's got to be affordable.
Yeah.
Okay, and until you
Of
can make it
course.
reliable and affordable to the masses that are going to be using it, the whole green energy thing is kind of you're spinning your wheels, because if half the world isn't going to jump on that bandwagon, what are we really solving?
No,
By forcing everybody to buy electric cars, which in and of themselves
Your
is-
coal burners.
Yeah. Okay. Where's the electricity come from? You got the lithium batteries that you got to mine for. I mean, there's a, but you don't want to talk about that, and
Well, there's all kinds of things you can do, but on a national scale or a regional scale, you're right. Okay, it's hard to change from what you got. To get rid of the nuke plants and then go to the wind farms, or whatever.
if you could get me a solar car that I could fly around like George Jetson tomorrow, and it cost me $20 a
I'd be right
month,
behind you.
I'm there.
Okay.
Okay. All I do is buy tires and shoes. So I mean, I'm driving all over the place.
Okay. All right, we're getting towards the. I have hard borders. Okay, that's my second thing. I want a hard border.
Well, wait a minute. What does a hard border mean? What does it mean?
Well, that means you guard every water hole between Mexico and the United States.
Well,
'Cause
that means-
that's how Grierson and the 10th Cavalry kept Victorio in Mexico. And if the wily Apache Victorio couldn't cross the border,
Nobody can. El Guapo. El Guapo could tunnel under. What I mean is this. We
I
put
had
up
to
a
get in
fence.
some history. I had to get it.
You two history buffs, man. I'm not even. I don't even try to keep up with you guys when it comes to world history. I don't. Just so
Wait
you
till we
guys
get into
know,
Roman
I
history. You
fully
really get
confess,
lost.
I defer to them on
He
history.
can even out Greek you on Greek history. Anyway, we have a situation where they want to put up a border that's semi-hard, a fence or a wall. Okay, that won't solve the problem because it costs a lot to put it up. It costs a lot to maintain it, and it's not impregnable. And if it's made out of steel, it's going to get stolen for junk, okay? If it's made out of concrete, it's going to be easy to tunnel under or break through. So what are you going to do? I would say, think big, America. Don't think small. Think big. Take care of two problems with one thing.
You want to build a canal?
I want to build a canal. I want to build it from the Rio Grande
Brownsville to San Diego.
all the way to San Diego.
Brownsville
all the
to San
way.
Diego.
And this, hey, look, listen, doesn't Trump want to buy back the Panama Canal? It's a stupid idea, not because he wants to do it, but because barges can't fit through it. The modern Chinese barge does not fit through that shallow and narrow canal. And it used to have traffic going in two directions, which made it affordable. Now the barge is so big it can only go in one way. Build that Rio Grande, dig it out, widen it, take it to San Diego. Now you know who's going to pay for it? Not Mexico, China. Because they're going to pay the toll. It would be a lot cheaper for them to take their barge all the way up to Houston and unload it there.
I think it's a great idea. I have no problem
This
with
is
it.
Danny DeLethips.
And wait a minute, that's only part one.
Okay.
Part two, okay, we have this ongoing tension in the South China Sea where China is building these little islands to make it close to Formosa, or actually Taiwan. Okay, I call it by its old name. Anyway, the closer they get, the closer that 200-mile limit for their thing gets to. When they reach it, they're going to claim Taiwan and all those factories and all the chips and all the people in it, right? I would take all that dirt that you took to make the canal and put it off Galveston, Texas, okay, in the Caribbean. I would terraform an island just for the Taiwanese and say, hey, come on over, we're going to give you your own island. You can be your own country. You can be protected in our Gulf of America. You know.
In the Gulf of Taiwan.
Interesting points.
Yeah.
Number one is I like the idea of the canal. I was like one of the things you and I kind of agreed with. I think that's kind of a cool idea. Number one. Number two, I think the U.S. is already seeing that Taiwan is going to be a problem. And it's my understanding that they just had some big Taiwanese chip maker set up shop in Texas.
Yeah.
So I think they're planning ahead for
Moving
that.
the entire population out of there.
You got it. It's like, listen, are we going to go to war with China over Taiwan, or are we just going to move all
Just
that?
move 'em.
All
Put 'em
that,
on big
all that
ships
big-
and take 'em away.
Motorola did that.
Maybe Japan will go to war with China.
If you
over
ever
Taiwan.
listen to the, I think his name is Brown.
Japanese are starting to rumble again.
Yeah, they got a hell of a plane. Did you see that new plane that they got? That fighter plane? Outclasses the Chinese new one and the American new one. You know, it's supposed to have things on it that nobody dreamed of. You know, which is It's kind of-
Motorola at one point had like 15,000 workers in China, and they're down to like maybe 50. Right,
Right.
and they just said we can't do business here. They steal our stuff, they reproduce it, and then you can't sue them for copyright because they just tell you screw off. We don't care.
Right.
And they got out of that whole. Motorola started the cell phone business. They were the first ones to come up with cell phones, and they got out of the cell phone business because they knew they couldn't compete in that market. The market that they do have, that they have a lock on, is security communications. We had radios.
Right.
Every police officer has
There's
a
a Motorola
radio. Okay.
and
But-
all the
but-
repeaters are
yeah,
Motorola repeaters.
If you ever get a chance, anybody out there, it was a great interview with Maria Bartiromo and the guy, the CEO from Motorola, and this guy was just spot on. I was so impressed with listening to him. But the point being is they got out of China. Get all those companies out of Taiwan if you think they're going to get run over by the Chinese. Either you're going to go to
But they are.
and they're starting to do that. And
They are.
that's the smart thing.
The South Koreans don't mind because that'll leave them
Okay.
as the number one people producing chips.
But why do they want to come here and make this? Because as Trump, he's gonna give tax incentives to his millionaire, billionaire friends, and the little people aren't gonna get anything. But that's what you have to do to those businesses to get them to come here to start building their chips.
You know, it's interesting that you said that because there's always another side. I call it the Paul Harvey, the rest of the story. Okay? And I was thinking of that on the condoms for the Moroccans, the $15 million. Okay? Here, picture yourself as Secretary of State. I don't care which one it was, all right? You're a Secretary of State. You want to get something passed in the UN. You need one more vote. It's the Moroccan guy. He comes up to you and says, you know, it'd be nice if we had, you know, condoms for these people that want to reproduce without, you know. And they go, condoms? Not a big issue. You want condoms? We'll give you condoms, okay? You're going to vote for us on this matter,
We're
right?
giving $58 million worth of condoms, or
Right.
whatever it was.
Well,
right?
we call it, I think the Republicans under Eisenhower called it dollar diplomacy, if I'm not mistaken. You know, and
Originally, the U.S. aid office was there to promote democracy in other countries.
yeah,
And
by
it was-
money, not by
showing
conquest.
them, right, by showing them what. Okay, it appears to me that organization, that agency, was nothing more than a slush fund. Okay.
Well, that's how it looks.
Well, it certainly does look that way.
Well,
Okay. I mean, you look at some of those programs, and I find it funny that, you know, we're going to complain about Musk not being an elected official, which, okay, most unelected officials run our country. Okay, that's nothing unusual. But they never argue about what he's finding. They always just argue about who's finding it. And I always find that to be one of the flaws in dealing with some of my liberal friends is they only want to bitch about who, but they don't want to bitch about the what. Okay? And they never bitch about the what when he's turning up all this stuff. And until you do that,
But you have to do the Paul Harvey on the what. You have to
So
go
do
to the
it.
why.
so do it.
He won't do that. Why should he do that?
Well,
it's
listen, somebody
headline
else.
splash when he says,
Listen.
I found $50 million going to condoms to what do you call
And
it?
the average Joe's going, why are we sending $50
Right,
million to
absolutely.
condoms?
Well, big headlines.
we are buying
Goodwill.
goodwill and influence.
Right.
And you know, it sounds funny when if
When
it was
you
like
isolate it.
when you isolate and say it's condoms, right, instead of money.
Right.
But if this is what they want,
Yeah.
this is what they want. We want something from them. They want something from us.
I really doubt that there was the whole freighter of condoms that got shipped to Morocco.
Well, I don't know if it was a whole freighter.
Okay,
you know.
I seriously doubt
And a lot of what
I
Musk says he's doing, and 2 days later, oh, I'm not really doing it.
Yeah, right. And if you want to talk about connections between how we spend our money and who gets, you know, the funding, what was Blackwater?
Oh, God.
Okay, what was
Right.
Blackwater?
Right.
For you in the audience who are too young to remember, okay, Blackwater is a private security company / militia.
Mercenaries.
Okay. Mercenaries.
Like the
right.
white company.
Right, and they were kind of related to a certain politician who was in big power at the time. I think he was the vice president.
It was.
You know, so,
It was.
and they were used exclusively in the Middle East.
And after the first Iraq War, but my understanding is if you worked for Blackwater, that was all tax-free money.
Tax-free money. Okay.
It was tax-free money.
Okay. All right, folks.
So you didn't have to pay. These guys didn't have to pay income tax on that because it was a government. You know, if you're working for the government overseas, then you don't have to pay tax or something along those lines. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on the tube if you're actually watching.
So if anybody out there has got any interesting ideas, please text us right now, and we'll put it on the screen. We'll kibitz over it. You know. Otherwise, I'm going to give a commercial for next week. Next week, we're going to have a guest that'll you'll be really interested in. His name is Fred Dagerberg. He was a champion weightlifter in Illinois. He was also a champion mixed martial artist in Illinois. He knows kung fu. He knows wrestling. He knows taekwondo. He knows karate. You know, it was all of those. He mixed them together and put together a bunch of studios in the Midwest and some other places around the nation. At one time, I think he had 2,200 students. He's a little older than me, and he is the first guy I've ever met in the rock business that did security. His crew and I met at in 1966, I think it was, at the Rainbow Rink, which was the Kinetic Playground at the time, or it might have been the Electric Theater. I don't know. They had different names, but the same place.
Wild Goose.
Right. And the show I saw him at was one of the iconic shows that only 5,000 people went to, but if you talk to people now, everybody my age said they were there. Okay. And it was Led Zeppelin opening up for Jethro Tull. And I went there not for either of those two bands. I went there to see Vanilla Fudge, the headliner. Set me free, why don't you, babe, psychedelically.
Well, that was an Italian band. You had Carmine PC.
Yeah, Carmine PC, greatest drummer.
And the guitar player's name was Vinny something.
Anyway.
And they blew Led Zeppelin out of the water anyway.
They blew them both.
They blew them both away.
I saw this guy with, standing on one foot trying to look like a karate kidder playing a flute, right? And then you get this real heavy sounding band.
We get it. We get it.
Anyway, it was great.
We get it.
It was a great night.
So if you're going to have Fred next week.
I'm going to have Fred next week, and he surprised me because his guys were outside the door of this place, showing that they were security, but they were all in black karate gis. And I had never seen that before, okay? And they had the satin dragon or something on the back.
Bill Graham wouldn't like that.
Huh?
Bill Graham wouldn't have liked that.
Well, I thought it was not very smart because you become a target, I mean, I came from Pizza Park. Now, we didn't have any karate schools in Pizza Park, but we always used to watch Billy Jack.
Can you explain what Pizza Park is?
Well, Elmwood Park.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyway,
they may
a
not
lot of
know,
Italians,
you
right?
guys may not know
and
Pizza
we were
Park.
very good in street fighting, but no karate guys.
A lot of tough guys.
Everybody would look at the movie Billy Jack or Kung Fu and say, "Oh, we could take this guy. This guy ain't nothing. We could take this guy." So if you're a guy standing there with a karate gi on, you're a challenge to a dummy. Okay, you're
drunk
a
dummies.
A drugged up or drunken dummy. You're a challenge.
An acid high dummy.
I mean, if he challenges you, what has he got to lose? If you beat him, you're supposed to beat him. If he beats you, hey, he's a hero. Okay, so why do that? I asked Fred about that, and he never had an explanation. Maybe he'll tell us next week when he comes in.
Well, but and then as I understand it, and it was before I started working for you, is that's how they got into the term peer group security.
Right.
Because now you get guys that had beards and tattoos or whatever, and they were just like the crowd, except they had a different shirt on, and they would go like, "Hey, dude, don't do that. Okay, come on, you're just here to have a good time." And it was more of it wasn't like an us against them. It's like we're all in this together, but if you screw up, there's going to be a problem.
Peer group security blossomed in this city after the Steve Dahl fiasco at Sox Park.
Oh, disco demolition?
Yeah, disco demolition. Because he blew up all these disco records in center field at White Sox Park, and White Sox Bill Veeck didn't hire security bouncers for rock and roll bounce. Had he done that, he would have saved the day. But he didn't. He hired Chicago cops, and the cops, led by a guy named Sergeant Rizzo, I think his name was, they lined the entire field, facing the crowd. Well, when they blew all these disco records up, all the cops turned around towards where the explosion was, and the kids took that as a message that they were going to charge the field, and they did. They charged the field. And what did you see the police do? They had to make sure their cap wasn't taken off their head, or their badge wasn't ripped off, or their gun. So they're doing this, instead of controlling the crowd.
The coppers at Comiskey Park were there to break up fights. And there were a lot of fights at Sox Park.
Yeah, but that was during a ball game.
During the ball games. And they took you out and they gave you a beating.
Mm-hmm.
They gave the cops. They gave you a beating.
They were Southside cops.
Right, and everybody expected them to give you a beating. You know, I mean, because
you went like, okay, I screwed up and I got a beating.
I got a beating.
And
yeah.
I got out of there and I didn't get arrested and I got a couple bumps on my head and okay.
But that's what you know. That's the way they looked at security at Sox Park.
All right, I'm going to give you my parting shot.
No,
I want you guys.
Wait a minute. I want to talk some more about this because
Okay, go ahead.
I remember working in the late 70s, and I worked at a place called Beginnings, which was a rock and roll club. It was live bands every night. And during intermission, we would play Saturday Night Fever. And people would get up and dance. And it was the weirdest dichotomy of people going to see rock and roll shows and still wanting to dance disco. And I never could understand that whole, like, disco sucks and we just want to be rock and rollers and stuff, because where I worked, there was a blend of the two of them that everybody seemed to get along with real well, and I couldn't.
Well, they're both popular music, right?
Well, I'll tell you music that was also popular at the time that we used to make people exit stage left. Okay, do you remember any hard rock shows like Aerosmith or Thin Lizzy or all those? When the kids got so loaded and drunk that the show was over, we had a hard time getting them out of the Aragon, right? Mm-hmm. Until we had a brainstorm. We started putting on Garth Brooks, you know,
all the time.
All the cowboy bands. That's it. They were out of there, gone. Okay, same thing with Jamaican groups. The same thing with black groups. You just put on the cowboy music and that's it. You don't have to tell a single person to leave. Okay, they're up and gone.
They're out of there.
You know, anyway,
they're out of there.
That's funny, with the disco, because looking back.
Yeah.
Okay, I was one of those disco, and all that. And looking back, that was a stupid way to think.
Because
that was just pop music too. And you know what? The guys that were going to discos were getting a lot more chicks than the guys that were going to heavy metal shows.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, the heavy metal.
I went to a Scorpion show. And I figured I'd meet some chicks, right?
I mean, if you don't have a dance, going to the disco was like going to Starbucks. If you don't go to Starbucks, well, it's really intimidating because you don't know what to do.
I know
you don't know how to do anything.
I know what the guys didn't like about disco. They had to learn steps, okay? It was really hard. It was really easy to go to a heavy metal show and do the Aryan dance. Yeah, you know?
Pop your head and let your hair
Pop
fall.
your head, put your head.
Well, see, now, we were in the mid-'60s. We knew how to dance. We used to go to sock hops at Austin High
that's
School.
because it was left over from the 50s.
And so, I used to be a pretty good dancer, and you probably were.
You were talking about cops at Disco Demolition, and we were at a game a couple of years ago, and my kid and these guys are like, "Give me Venmo me $100. I'm going to run on the field," and my kids are like videotaping this, right? And look, the guy actually jumped over the fence and started running at the end of the game, and all these cops that are about 90 pounds overweight are trying to catch
him, right?
and it's become comical. It's like it's
like when they chased the black cat.
Now here's my idea to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Third inning, you put up the police dog on the screen, and you introduce the police dog to the crowd, and you say, "This is Jet. If you run on the field, guess what? Jet's gonna come get you." Okay? Spike, Jet, whatever you call the dog. Yeah. Now, I guarantee you, everybody in that place will love the dog more than they'll love the person running around trying to dodge the cops, right? Everybody loves dogs, and it would be like theater. It would be almost like a gladiator thing that the guy jumps on the road, and you just let the dog go and go get the guy, and that's the end of it. And I guarantee you, nobody will run on the field again.
Well, I think you're right, except for one particular crowd. Guess who that crowd is?
Grateful Dead.
Grateful Dead. Okay.
Grateful Dead's gone.
They don't follow any norm. Okay. They're not
true.
afraid of dogs. They're not afraid of horses. They're not afraid of clubs. They're not. As long as they got their tanks. Their nitrous oxide tanks, they can take on the world. But we made friends with that lousy cop over at Soldier Field. Remember, he was the first time we started working Soldier Field. He gave us all kinds of problems. He's a political position, and then we had a Grateful Dead show, and I went with him out into the parking lot as our guys were confiscating these.
Was that at Tinley?
No, this was at Soldier Field.
At Soldier Field.
Okay. We started confiscating those nitrous oxide tanks, right? And each one of those at the time was going for $75 just for the tank, because it's solid iron.
And the deposit.
Yeah, and right,
the
and
deposit.
Usually you're renting the tanks. They don't even
right,
sell.
he turned into our friend. I said, I don't know what to do, and I knew what to do with him.
Schaefer?
Oh, I can't remember. It might have been Schaefer. No, I think Schaefer was the manager. This is the guy, the cop that worked there. He was either a lieutenant. I think he was a lieutenant. He might have been a captain.
Yeah.
That they just wanted to park. Okay, they just want the commanders just wanted to park this guy. He had a lot of hours and stuff.
And I remember when we first started doing that out there, we would open up the valve on the tank to just let all the air out.
Yeah.
And it would take 20 minutes to a half
Yeah.
hour to unload the tank, and we're like, I ain't got time for this.
No,
So
just put the tank in
Just
it.
throw the tank on one of the
Carts.
the carts, and people go, you can't take my tank, and the cops going, yeah, we can.
Yeah,
And we
yeah,
just
yeah,
did.
yeah.
And then everyone like, yeah. Don't
Oh, we
bring-
were
don't
giving
bring
out
tank.
wristbands. Here's your tank number. Okay. Come see me at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Right?
In 3 days, we'll have all the tanks in the basement of
Yeah, right.
Soldier Field.
So yeah, don't bring a tank to a soldier field.
They learned.
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, well, make sure you don't have the tank out because these guys are going to take it.
But I'll tell you what, I succumbed at the last Grateful Dead show that I know it was going to be at because they had died, And,
Well, he died 2 weeks later.
Right.
Jerry Garcia died 2 weeks
and
later.
that last show, I did the crew talked me into doing a balloon. Okay, so I did a balloon. And it was a big balloon. I did maybe half of the balloon, and it's laughing gas. Okay, everything's funny. That's it. It's all funny, but it's real short and it's over with right away. And then you're wondering why the hell you did it. It's just,
Well, I remember that show that the Grateful Dead had passed out this flyer. They had us passing out this flyer, and they were like, "Listen, you guys got to tone it down. The Deadheads, you guys got to tone it down. You guys got to quit crashing gates
Right.
and selling too many drugs and being assholes because." We're not going to do this anymore if you guys keep it up. Was the gist of their letter.
The venues were calling each other and
Right.
in advances and say, hey, they did this, they did that. And so politicians from these towns were saying, no, we're not going to let you have a permit to put the show on.
We're not going to let you vent.
I think the first use of nitrous oxide was by a dentist in New England in 1840s, 1850s.
How the hell do
But-
you know
but
this?
it's,
They have nitrous oxide.
His first,
Right, I said it. I'm
the
sorry.
first
I didn't interrupt.
patient that he
Photographic.
had was so impressed that he named his daughter, was born not long after, he named her Anesthesia.
Did you set us up for a bad joke?
No, it's
set
not
up for
it's not a joke.
It's true?
It's
Set
true.
up for a bad
Anesthesia.
joke.
Anesthesia, yeah.
All right.
See, Greg, Deadheads, you had something. You had some connection with history. Anyway, next week, tune in. Tuesday. Every Tuesday, 7 o'clock, unless I'm done. Dirt Circle.
Well, we'll just keep it up. Don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
you keep it up. Yeah, you're gonna keep up the spirit. You'll have to rent the room from my old lady. Anyway,
She will scalp us.
well, she take my place. Oh, I wanted to say something in regards to last week's gun control issue that
Yeah.
I didn't get to say.
Yeah.
I think Will brought up, who's not here, I wish he was. Will brought up that if the janitor had an FOI card and a gun, he should be able to carry it in school
If you wanted to.
if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay, and that we should be able to arm the teachers if they wanted to
If
be
they
armed.
want to.
Okay. My objection to that is, I remember going to school in grade school, even though it was so long ago. It wouldn't be too hard to find where those guns were stashed unless they kept it on their bodies.
Well, Danny,
Okay.
yeah.
The kids will find a way to get those guns. If they don't, and somebody says there's a shooter in the place, and they call the police come in. Do they know the janitor's not the shooter?
Danny.
Do they know the teacher's not the shooter?
Well, listen. I would think that most of the cops that deal with the school kind of know the personnel and whatnot. I'm sure you can tell who's personnel and who isn't. Number one. Number two, the concealed carry is if somebody has it on them, they're probably going to have it on them, or they're going to have it in a secured spot.
Mm-hmm.
But most importantly, Danny, what you're doing is you're eliminating it from being a soft target.
You're trying to harden the target.
Right, exactly.
Without paying for it.
Exactly. I mean, schools are soft targets because people know nobody at the school has a gun.
Well, it's got
Okay.
that big no gun
No
sign.
gun sign. So where better place to go shoot up people than a big sign that says you can't bring a gun in?
Yeah.
So if you, just the thought of 2 or 3 or 4 people being armed within a school is probably a bigger deterrent to somebody wanting to go in there and do that.
The problem is that all those people, they go there to die.
Yeah,
Well,
they shoot
you're
themselves.
never going to be able to stop that.
No.
Okay, if somebody's on a death wish, they're not going to. They just shot a guy the other day. I can't remember where it was. The guy in the Secret Service shot him outside the White House, and they said the guy just said, "I'm
Death by cop.
yeah, suicide by cop."
Suicide guy. By
Okay,
cop, right.
there's nothing you can do about
You
it.
wanna
It's
go out now?
going to happen. You just have
Blaze
to be
of
prepared.
glory.
Yeah.
What's that?
They want to go out in a blaze of
Blaze of
glory.
glory is their
Yeah, well,
mind,
guess
you know.
what? I don't know his name.
Yeah.
Okay, and left a big impression on me. You know the guy's name? I don't know
No.
his name.
He didn't accomplish anything, and I don't think there's any assassin that's going to accomplish getting this president. They've tried. I think the only assassin that might be successful is Ronald McDonald. You know, he might give him the heart attack, the big grabber before the term is up, but that's the only one that's going to get
The
him.
problem with Trump, sometimes he's just so unpredictable. He just like goes into places, or he goes here and he goes there, and he just, if you're trying to plan and attack him, you can't do that because he may just shift gears on you. And
You wander away.
Listen, they came close. They came really close to getting him,
Well,
like it or not.
Yeah, but he didn't
Okay.
use a sniper rifle. He used an AR-15. You know, I mean, if you're going to get the guy, use the right equipment.
The people shoot AR-15s competitively. They're accurate.
Yeah, but not from that distance.
Yes,
100,
yeah.
200 yards?
Yes, yes, they are.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to have a
Well, the
Lee
guy-
Enfield that was made in 1917.
Well, that's different
and
than
I could hit a baseball at 250 yards.
got a longer barrel.
Well, the guy at the golf club, he was sitting in the bushes.
Yeah.
He was right there.
Yeah, that was amazing that they caught him. That was amazing. They redeemed themselves.
Yeah, they did.
They redeemed themselves.
But
All right, folks.
I still
tune-
think somebody's going to try to get him.
Tune
I
in
hate to
next
say
week.
that, but
We're gonna be here. We're gonna be here with Fred. You're gonna see how rock and roll security started. We're gonna do a little bit more about what to do when you go to a general admission show to keep yourself safe.
yeah, crowd safety. I like it.
You know, and we'll see you next week. Make sure you bring your Joe.